everyone, it's Miss Bunny here. In our video today, I'm going to demonstrate the Grapheme Phoneme correspondence. That means that I'm going to show you the phoneme, the sound that each of our graphemes, our letters, make in phonics. I'm going to explain in a little bit more detail this time about why we make each sound and how we can help our children to remember them too. First of all, your children learn their Phase 2 GPCs. That means their Grapheme Phoneme correspondence. You may see this as the letter S. That's its letter name, but the phoneme, the sound that it makes in phonics is S. So we move our arm like it's a snake travelling. This is A. A, like having ants on your arm crawling up. A, 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 A. This one, the phoneme, the sound is S, 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 S. We can pretend we're watching a game of tennis. S, 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 S. The way we pronounce this phoneme is very quiet. It's P. P. We can pretend with our children that we're puffing out a candle. P, 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 that's lit on a cake using a puff of air. This grapheme makes the phoneme, the sound, I, I, I. A bit like a mouse. This is whiskers if we had a mouse called Inky. I, I, I. This phoneme is N. Our mouth needs to be open for N. We can pretend that we are an aeroplane travelling. N. This is a long phoneme. This phoneme is a little bit different because our mouth must be closed. It's very similar, but our mouth must be closed. We can pretend to rub our tummies as if we're hungry. The phoneme is D, 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 D. We can pretend to play a drum. We have to make sure that we're not adding a schwa on the end. That means adding an phoneme like D, D, D. We must say D, 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 D. This phoneme is G. Again, we mustn't add the schwa It's G, not G, G, G. G, 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 G. Like water gurgling down a plug. G, 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 G. The phoneme is O. O. You can remember because your mouth makes the same shape as the letter O. O. We can say O, 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 as if we're turning on and off a switch. The phoneme for this grapheme is K. K. It's the same as this grapheme. K. K. Sometimes different graphemes can make the same sound, the same phoneme. This also makes the phoneme K. K. Can you see that there are two letters here? We don't read this as K. It is simply K. Two letters are working together to make one phoneme, one sound. E, E, E. We can pretend to crack an egg. E, E, E. The phoneme for this grapheme is You might pretend to put up and umbrella. Put up an umbrella. The phoneme for this grapheme is not r. R, r, r would be adding a schwa, an on the end. You can pretend that you've got a rag, like you're a puppy, and you're ripping the rag. for this one is also very quiet. It's it's a huff onto your hand. This phoneme is b, b, b. We have to be really careful that the phoneme is very short for this one. B, 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 b. We don't want to say ba, 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 as that will make it difficult for your children to then blend words together if they're adding an on the end. So this one is b, b, b. This is the phoneme f. This grapheme makes the sound f. It's a very short sound for this grapheme. I'm pretending to puff air out of something. There are two letters making the same sound, the same phoneme. We don't read this as this is simply a longer phoneme. It's the phoneme is l. You might pretend to lick a lollipop. L, l. There are two L's now, so we don't say l, l. We must make a longer l, l. That's it. Now, you might have guessed that there are two S's here, and we don't read this as s, s. We read it as a long phoneme. S. Once your children have mastered the phase 2 graphemes, then they learn their phase 3 phonemes and their corresponding sound, the phoneme that those graphemes make. This is the first one they might learn. This is j, j, and we can pretend that we are jelly wobbling on a plate. J, 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 j. This is v. You could pretend that you're driving a van. Your teeth should be inside your mouth. Not on the outside for this one. This is the phoneme w, w. Not w, but w, w, w. It's quite a quiet one. This is the phoneme x, x, like an X-ray, x, x, or perhaps the sound that a camera might make, x, x, x. The phoneme is y, y, y. Your children might pretend to eat some yogurt, y, y. This grapheme makes the phoneme z. Just a short phoneme, z. This time there are two Zs. They are working together to make a longer phoneme, a longer sound. It's z, z. Can you hear that it is longer this time? This is a digraph. There are two letters, but they are only making one phoneme. This isn't Q and a U working on its own. They're working together. They are making the phoneme qu, qu, qu. You could pretend to quack, quack. Move your hands like a duck quacking. Qu, qu. This is another digraph. K and h are working together to make the phoneme, the sound ch, ch, ch. A bit like the sound that a train might make as its wheels go around. Ch, ch, ch. This is another digraph. There are two letters making just one sound. They're working together to make the phoneme sh. You can pretend to shush somebody. Shh. This digraph makes two phonemes. Sometimes a grapheme can make more than one sound, and this is a digraph that can make more than one sound. It can make the phoneme a soft, but it can also make a hard z. This can make two phonemes and z. We have to make sure that our tongue is outside of our mouth. That's really important for this one. And z. And we point to our tongues. Sometimes z. You might pretend to be a clown or something, poking out your tongue. This is again a digraph. There are two letters here. They're working together, making only one phoneme, and that phoneme is ng. It's really important that we're making just one sound, not ng. It's ng. Ng. And you can pretend you're being super strong and lifting some weights. Ng. Ng. This is a digraph, and it's the digraph A. You might pretend that you're trying to hear somebody. A. Again, these two letters, they're working together to make a long phoneme, and the long phoneme is E. You could pretend that you're a donkey. A donkey makes an E-or sound, and you are making E. There is more than two letters, but they are still working together to make only one sound, one phoneme. Three letters making one sound is not called a digraph. It is called a trigraph. Three letters making one sound is a trigraph. This is a trigraph, and it's the trigraph I. You might salute as if you're saying, aye, aye, Captain. I. This is a digraph, two letters making one sound, and the phoneme, the sound they are making is O. You might have a bit of a shocked face and say, O. Your mouth is making two circular shapes, just like in the letters O and A. O. This is a long phoneme. It makes two different sounds. It can make but it can also make the long oo. A short and a long oo. Oo. You can pretend to be a cuckoo and move your neck back and forward. Oo. 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 This digraph is ah. We have to make sure that we don't put too much pronunciation on the R sound. It's ah. You could pretend that you're at the dentist and you open your mouth or you're at the doctor's and they're checking your throat and you can say ah. This digraph is the other half of the digraph E. The action is or. It's the other half of the sound that the donkey makes. Or. This is This grapheme makes the phoneme This is for things like fur, words like fur or hurt. So you could pretend that you are stroking a cat. A cat's fur. This is the digraph ow, and we pretend that we have caught ourselves with a pin in our finger while sewing. Ow! 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 This is the digraph, two letters making one sound, and it's the digraph oi. You might say this if you're getting somebody's attention. Oi! Oi! This is a trigraph, and it is the trigraph ear. Ear. We hear with our ear, so we point to our ear, ear. Again, there are 3 letters here and they're only making one phoneme, one sound. Ear. This is another trigraph. There are 3 letters and they're making one phoneme, one sound, and that one phoneme is air. You might pretend that you're a hot air balloon going up, 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 and up to the sky. Air, air. This is another trigraph. This is quite a tricky one. It is yaw, yaw. We point when we say yaw to help us to remember, yaw. Another way you might remember this is by saying you're hard to say, yaw. This digraph makes the phoneme, the sound, You may have noticed a different grapheme that also made the same phoneme that we have already looked at, the U and the R. This time it is E and R, and it's the in mix So we remind the children by pretending to mix a bowl of ingredients, and we say I hope this video has been useful to help you understand the meaning behind grapheme and phoneme, digraph and trigraph, and how we teach your children to remember their new sounds.